Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your patience. It's a lot of hearings going on this afternoon. Secretary Perry, thank you for being here. Let me start with the Hanford site. It's in my state, Central Washington, as you well know. The federal government has a moral and a legal obligation to clean up that nuclear waste site, yet President Trump's proposed budget is very short-sighted and it's inadequate when it comes to Hanford. I want to ask you, does DOE support completing the low-activity waste facility and hot commissioning it by December 2023?
Yes.
Okay, well, you tell me how you will meet that. It's a legally binding consent decree requirement with this budget request that essentially holds the Office of River Protection flat despite a very clear demonstrated need for increasing resources to meet those obligations?
Senator, you were not here a little bit earlier, and I just talked about Hanford in a global sense, and I talked about that I hope we can have a conversation. I know I'm coming out hopefully this summer, and that we can walk across the Hanford site together.
Well, you can't walk across it. It's really big.
Yes, ma'am. I'll attempt to travel it however you choose. But the point is, I'd like to come out there with you, and we can talk about the cost, and are we getting a good return on our dollars? And I think you share that.
Well, of course I do.
Yes,
and I did hear about your comments earlier. And let me just say this. Thousands of projects on cleanup have been already done.
Yes.
But there is a lot of work left to do.
A lot left to do.
And this is a legal obligation. It is a moral obligation. And we can't just say, well, we're not going to do this. It is going to be done. It has to be done. Of course, we're all interested in saving costs, but you also have to protect all the workers there. This is a nuclear waste site.
Yep.
So safety has to come first. And you can't just throw out decrees and consent decrees and legal obligations that are there. And there is a lot more work to do.
Yep.
So I just want you to know this is not a simple project. You don't just land
It
there
is not
and
a
say,
simple
"Let's do
project.
this."
And I think of all the challenges that I face as a secretary that are going to be here after I'm gone, is Hanford. And how we deal with it, how we address it, looking at new ways to address it, getting outside of the box, and maybe how historically the government has looked at it, I think is worth a conversation. That's not to say that I have any new piece of information, but I will work with you every day if that's what's required, so that the people of Washington State and the citizens of this country know that we are committed. And I totally agree with your observation that this is a moral and legal imperative that we have as a country to clean that site up. And I'm committed to it. I just want to make sure and use my experiences of a lifetime of managing some pretty big entities as the governor of Texas, that we do it in a way that we get the best result for our expenditure.
I appreciate that, but this is a nuclear waste site.
Yep.
It's extremely dangerous.
I understand that.
And it has to be cleaned up, and if it doesn't clean up, it's going to leak into the Columbia River and will be a problem much bigger than it is now. And I've heard a lot of secretaries come before us that are going to go back and relook at it and do something different. I've been here for 25 years, and I'll just tell you this. My dad was there when it was first built, and when he went to war in World War II and came back, and there was a site next to him. He didn't even know what it was. Well, we know what it was now. We know what happened. We've had years of work to get it done. And that is a community that helped our country win a world war. And they do not deserve to have a nuclear waste site behind them, nor do they deserve to have people come in every 4 years and say, I'm going to do something different. There's a lot of complex agreements that are in place to get it done. And the federal government's responsibility is to provide the dollars for that. So we need the secretary to understand that. I appreciate your trying to understand it, but I also want you to know that there's no cheap way to do this. There's absolutely no cheap way to do this, and it has to get done. And I really appreciate this committee, Senator Alexander, Senator Feinstein, who do understand that, have worked with us for a long time. None of us like to write checks for a lot of money. But the alternative is just not viable. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, for accommodating me.